At the engagement banquet, Traitor deserted me in front of all the guests and went to pick up his so-called sister who had returned from studying abroad. Without the main character present, the entire engagement banquet turned into a complete joke. Later, I was in a critical condition due to a car accident. However, as my husband, he was nowhere to be found. It was only when the hospital called him that we learned that Traitor was celebrating his sister's birthday. In the end, I died on the operating table due to ineffective rescue. When I got a second chance, I returned to the day of the engagement banquet, seeing his guilty and anxious expression. This time, instead of crying and trying to stop him, I comforted him with my words, "It's okay. You can go. I'll be here." Traitor's expression froze for a moment, and he stared blankly at me as I removed the red flower on his chest that symbolized a newlywed. "Aurora, don't be angry. I know this is very unfair to you, but Vixen is, after all, my most important family member." No, I'm not angry at all. I always maintained a considerate and generous smile. "Then wait for me. I'll bring my sister here to be our witness." He gave me an apologetic look and quickly ran towards the outside of the hall. His so-called sister was the childhood sweetheart he had loved deeply since he was a child. Vixen went to study abroad before graduating from university and was away for 2 years. During these 2 years, there was a major financial crisis in the Traitor family. In order to preserve the Traitor family's property, the Traitor family decided to marry into our family to increase cooperation and get through this crisis. However, even at this engagement banquet, which was crucial to the Traitor family, Traitor dared to lead directly in front of everyone. It was nothing more than that he believed I loved him to the core. I fell in love with him the first time I saw him in university. I didn't hesitate to use my family's connections to secure a lot of cooperation for the Traitor family. As a result, the Traitor family had a good impression of me. After all, the Traitor family was relatively weak in power and could only rely on our family to survive. I had a high say in my own family, and it was the same in the Traitor family. Therefore, my choice to marry into the Traitor family also implicitly recognized Traitor as the future heir of the Traitor family. As soon as Traitor left, all the guests at the banquet started chatting and discussing. Even Traitor's parents rushed to me with cautious expressions. "Aurora, Auntie wants to apologize to you first. Please don't be angry. Traitor must be preparing a surprise for you. Just be patient." While soothing me, Traitor's mother anxiously instructed Traitor's father to contact Traitor. The Traitor family was in a state of chaos for a while because of Traitor sneaking away. But fearing that the incident would escalate, the elders of the Traitor family soon came out to stabilize the situation. All of them looked at me, afraid that I would be angry and take it out on the entire Traitor family. "Mom, don't worry. I won't be angry about such trivial matters. We were just getting married for the sake of the alliance. Now that Traitor has taken the initiative to give up this opportunity, we should respect his choice." Hearing that I called her Mom instead of Auntie, Traitor's mother's expressions softened a bit. But after hearing the second half of my sentence, she thought I was still speaking out of anger and nervously said again, "Aurora, don't say that. I promise to bring that brat Traitor back to you within half an hour." As she said that, Traitor's mother waved to the bodyguard at the door. It seemed that she was going to directly drag Traitor back. In my previous life, when Traitor left the scene, I soothed all the guests and hosted the engagement banquet until he returned. His behavior could be considered an insult to our family. But I still tried my best to persuade my dissatisfied parents to agree to my engagement with Traitor. Everyone in the Traitor family was submissive in front of me. But only Traitor, relying on my love for him, repeatedly challenged my bottom line. In my previous life, Traitor didn't return until the banquet officially started. He entered the venue with Vixen and was affectionate with Vixen in front of everyone. Traitor was indeed a model of someone who wanted to have it all. He didn't want to let go of his childhood sweetheart, yet he couldn't refuse my power to decide the heir. The ambiguous relationship between Traitor and Vixen had already started before I officially met them. He kept it a secret from everyone and had an unclear relationship with Vixen. The reason why Vixen went to study abroad was that this relationship was discovered by the Traitor family. The Traitor family knew that I liked Traitor very much. In order not to anger me, they forcibly sent Vixen abroad despite Traitor's opposition. Traitor hated me deeply because of this. However, for the position of heir, he endured it. It was only after we got married that he revealed his true colors. That marriage ultimately turned into a joke. Already recognized as the heir, he was fearless, relying on my favor. His relationship with Vixen gradually became more and more blatant. But when I questioned him, he always vowed that she was just his sister. I only have family affection for her now. Don't be unreasonable. Aurora, you've already taken away my love for her. You should be more understanding. Just because he said that. In my previous life, being infatuated in love, I felt full of guilt and allowed him to meet Vixen. Traitor became more and more outrageous. When I was seriously injured in a car accident, the thing I most wanted to do was to see him one last time. After all, I was a person about to die, and he should at least fulfill my last wish. However, no one in the whole family could get in touch with him. It was only after the doctor persistently called for a long time that the call was finally connected. Traitor was celebrating Vixen's birthday, and he sounded rather impatient when he answered the phone. Tell her not to be so willful. There should be a limit to her nonsense. Now she can even pretend to be dead. We'll talk about it when I get back. He always thought that I was a habitual liar and a troublesome person. He thought that I would stop at nothing for him. So how could he possibly believe me? In this life, I won't do anything to wrong myself for him anymore. I stopped Traitor's mother from calling the bodyguard. Mom, if Traitor doesn't want to marry me, it's okay. The Traitor family doesn't have only him as a child. As I said that, I walked towards a handsome young man sitting at a distant seat. The young man had a delicate face and his fingers were flying over the laptop. Only when he felt someone blocking the light did he look up at me. And his beautiful eyes were full of confusion. Traitor's younger brother, Striver, was a top student at Kyoto University. Sister-in-law. What's wrong? So focused on his research. He didn't seem to know at all what had just happened. I reached out my hand to him. Will you marry me? Or, do you want to become the heir of the Traitor family? Striver stood there stunned. Oh. Okay. Before he could react, I directly pulled him up from his seat, walked onto the stage, and announced to everyone, today is the engagement ceremony between me and Striver. I hope all the elders here can be our witnesses. Aurora, wait a little longer. We'll call Traitor back right away. Don't be stubborn. When Traitor's father and mother saw what I was doing, they panicked and desperately tried to stop me. Because Striver was not a legitimate child and was Traitor's half-brother. Simply put, he was an illegitimate child. But after all, he was considered their own child. So the Traitor family still brought Striver back. The fact that he was an illegitimate child was not Striver's fault. Back then, what other will say? When his mother found out that she had been deceived into being a mistress, she couldn't bear the blow and committed suicide. Over the years since he came back, he hadn't had a good time in the Traitor family. If it weren't for my emphasis on talent and my recognition of the value he could create in the future. Otherwise, no matter how talented Striver was, he would have been completely buried and suppressed. Moreover, in this second life, only I know that in the future, he will achieve great success and completely break away from the Traitor family. Striver will establish his own company and compete with the Traitor family. Soon, the cooperation amount between his company and our family will exceed that of the Traitor family. He will use this method to take revenge on Traitor's father. If it weren't for my deep love for Traitor and my initiative to help the Traitor family, Striver's company would have long since completely replaced the Traitor family's position in front of our family. Logically speaking, Striver is a more suitable candidate for engagement. So how could I let Traitor's father and mother terminate the engagement ceremony? I waved my hand to have the bodyguards stop them. Striver was still in a state of confusion, but he didn't refuse. He let me take the engagement ring brought by the ceremonial lady and put it on his hand. The rings were exchanged, and everything was a foregone conclusion. The engagement banquet proceeded as originally planned. The banquet officially began, and only then did Traitor arrive late. He was holding Vixen's hand, his face flushed with the joy of having her back. When he entered the venue, All the guests looked at him in unison. And suddenly everyone fell silent. It seemed that Traitor felt that the scene was different from what he had imagined, and his expression was rather strange. Vixen tugged at the hem of his clothes and nervously hid behind him. In my previous life, when Traitor returned, he was scolded alternately by Traitor's father and mother. Obviously, having so still and say, I was the victim. But I thoughtfully smoothed things over for Traitor. In this life, I won't interfere. The bullets should land where they are supposed to. Traitor, kneel down for me. As soon as Traitor's father saw Traitor come back, he immediately rushed over and slapped Traitor. Traitor frowned and turned to look at me, seemingly dissatisfied that I didn't step in to stop it. Dad, I just went to pick up Vixen. It doesn't affect anything. He then put on a flattering smile and soothed Traitor's father, who was gradually losing his temper. How dare you still act so flippant? Do you know what price you paid for this cheap woman? Traitor's father slapped him again and pointed at Traitor, unable to speak for a long time. Dad, you can't say that. Traitor interrupted his father and warned in a cold tone, this is a matter for us young people. You don't need to interfere. How ridiculous. He was such a person who didn't know the occasion. Vixen was protected behind Traitor and suddenly burst into tears with a wail. I'm sorry. Father Traitor. I didn't mean to. I really miss Traitor so much. So I came back early. Who do you think you are? This engagement was ruined and all because of you. Upon hearing the word engagement, Vixen's expression froze. The little blood color on her fair face slowly faded away. Then she reluctantly forced a smile. I'm sorry. Father Traitor. I've caused trouble. Then I wish your son a happy engagement. As she said that, she turned around, looking lost, and was about to leave. She had long known that today was the engagement banquet. It was just that she was acting in front of Traitor's father and mother, pretending to have a deep affection for Traitor, so that they would soften their hearts and let her stay as the recognized sister of Traitor in the Traitor family. Traitor promptly hugged her and protected her in his arms. And then shouted at everyone present, she has no improper thoughts. Do you really want to trap her abroad for the rest of her life and never let her come back? Only then will you be satisfied? As he said that, he lowered his head to comfort Vixen. Don't be afraid. With me here, no one will force you to do anything you don't want to do in the future. Indeed, no one will force him anymore. After all, he can no longer become the heir of the Traitor family. No matter how much he messes around, no one will restrain him. Everyone present looked at the two of them as if watching a joke. Even Traitor's father was speechless, and could only glare at his son in frustration, hating that his son is not up to par. Traitor obviously sensed that something was wrong. The petals symbolizing the success of the engagement had already been scattered on the stage, and the engagement banquet had been in progress for a long time. Aurora, what's going on? Didn't I ask you to wait for me to come back before starting? What's all this about? I pursed my lips and my expression was nonchalant. You don't know what this is about. Then you should know this. I raised my arm and showed the back of my hand, displaying the custom-made ring by a renowned jeweler to him. Traitor's expression changed slightly, and he suddenly sneered, Aurora. This joke isn't funny. I'm not joking. I beckoned over River, whose face was slightly red, and took his arm. Let me introduce you. This is my fiancé, Aurora. Don't push your luck. Don't you know what day it is today? Traitor's cold gaze swept over River, mixed with hatred. I should be the one saying that. Traitor. Today is my engagement ceremony with your younger brother. It's really difficult for me that you came here with your female companion and caused a commotion. Vixen. You don't have to be sad. After all, my engagement partner isn't your big brother Traitor. You must be tired after a long journey. Come and sit down and have something to eat quickly. I put on an appearance of entertaining guests and made an inviting gesture toward the hall. Enough. Traitor couldn't hold back any longer. Ignoring Vixen behind him, he came over and tried to drag me away. River immediately stood in front of me. His handsome profile was now as frosty as if covered in ice. Brother, please don't make things difficult for my fiancé. Traitor said, you lowlife. When did you get the right to speak here? River said, Is this how you talk to the future heir of the Traitor family? Behind me stood the elders of the Traitor family. He said in a volume that the guests couldn't hear. You gave up the chance to be the heir yourself. You can't blame others. It's impossible. This can't be true. His wishful thinking had completely failed, and a strong sense of doubt made it impossible for Traitor to accept. Aurora, give me an explanation. Why? Traitor's movement to grab me was quickly controlled by the bodyguards, and he was soon taken away from the scene. The guests present looked at the farce with contempt and malice, and commented on it. This woman just wanted to climb up the social ladder. Now it's all over. She managed to make him lose the position of heir all by herself. It's not her fault. Is it? It's just that Traitor is being reckless and too presumptuous. Which fool would have such a good temper and keep tolerating him? Hearing this, my face felt a bit hot and I smiled self-deprecatingly. After all, I was that fool in my previous life. It was also here in my previous life that I endured the cold stares and contempt of everyone present and maintained the situation until Traitor came back. I was really so stupid that I only turned back after hitting the brick wall. I was the kind of person who only knew regret after dying once. After the engagement banquet ended, I followed the people of the Traitor family back home. Traitor was smashing things and going crazy in the hall, and Vixen stood beside him, crying and trying to stop him. Traitor, don't do this. What if you hurt yourself? As she spoke, she snatched the vase from Traitor's hand. The vase had already been smashed and only the neck was left. Suddenly, it pierced her hand and blood gushed out. Seeing this, Traitor immediately felt heartbroken and stopped his actions, asking the servant to bring the first aid kit and apply medicine. During this time, Vixen gave me a provocative look. She still seemed to think that my engagement with Street River was just to make Traitor angry, and that it was mostly out of spite. I just thought she was crazy. Traitor, look at what you've become now. Traitor's father pointed at Traitor and cursed. It's not all my son's fault. Traitor's mother stood in front of Traitor to protect him. When she saw Street River that I was holding onto, her expression was full of resentment. It's all because of you. You lowlife. You must have seduced Aurora. Otherwise, why would Aurora choose you? Traitor's mother didn't dare to point the finger at me, and could only keep scolding Street River. It was my elder brother who gave up the chance to marry the daughter of the Aurora family himself. You can't blame others for this. Moreover, who deliberately left Aurora at the scene? Doesn't my elder brother know how important today's engagement was? Street River's tone was imposing, and there was no trace of the previous feeling of him being silent and hiding among the crowd in the Traitor family. Those feelings of unwillingness about my previous life in my heart suddenly vanished when I saw Street River's calm and confident appearance. You're talking nonsense. You just covet the position of the heir of the Traitor family. And I'll give up the position of the heir. As soon as Street River said this, everyone present looked at him in surprise. As included me. He was originally an illegitimate child, and the position of the heir was precarious. Because of his words, the possibility of him becoming the heir decreased again. I don't even look down on the position of the heir of the Traitor family. You've gone too far. Who gave you the guts to humiliate the Traitor family like this? Do you believe that I'll kick you out of the house and sever the relationship with you completely? Fine. Anyway, heading for land session. My household registration isn't in the Traitor family either. In my previous life, I only knew that Street River later broke away from the Traitor family. But I never knew the inside story. In this life, because of me, they had a complete break much earlier. Fine. You've really gone too far. Don't regret it. Traitor's father was so angry that he was gasping for breath. Traitor's mother ran to his side to comfort him, and although she looked worried, her joy at this moment couldn't be hidden. Street River didn't show any reluctance and directly turned around and left. I immediately chased after him. After Street River left the Traitor family, he was wandering around on the road. I drove behind him. Seeing that Street River didn't seem to want to get in the car, I simply parked the car and ran to his side. Street River and I were strolling on the road, looking at this boy who was several years younger than me. Just a few hours ago, he was just my unknown younger brother-in-law. I felt the urge to discipline him. You were a bit too impulsive. I wasn't interested in being the heir in the first place. The Traitor family is like a den of evil to me. Even if I really became the heir, do you think I could hold the position firmly? But you have the support of my family. It's useless. My words of retort were interrupted. There's always a pretext for framing someone. If something really happens, then even your family won't be able to save me. Moreover, only by relying on my own efforts can I really be worthy of you. His face gradually turned red with shyness. This little brat who had always silently followed behind everyone in the Traitor family. For the first time today, I felt that he had become a man. The elders of the Traitor family called me and asked me to bring River back to the Traitor family. Traitor's father was still angry. Since he had always disliked his illegitimate son, he had made up his mind to completely sever the relationship with River. With the mediation of the elders of the Traitor family, River was only allowed to pack his things and leave the Traitor family the next day. I was worried and decided to stay overnight at the Traitor family tonight. That night, Traitor moved into the same room with Vixen in the name of rekindling their relationship. That night, the two of them realized their dream that they had for many years. Early the next morning, the servants of the Traitor family prepared breakfast and placed it on the table. By the time I was almost done eating, the two of them finally showed up. The two of them were flirting with each other at the dining table. Vixen even acted capriciously and asked Traitor to feed her. I pretended not to see it and turned to ask the servant, "Where's my husband?" I learned that he had already gone to the research laboratory at school early in the morning. It seemed that I couldn't wait for him. I stood up and was about to leave when I heard Traitor mockingly say in a contemptuous tone, "It seems that he doesn't care about you." Traitor seemed to want to see an embarrassed and disappointed expression on my face. But I finally let his expectations down. I just calmly took the coffee handed to me by the servant and sipped it calmly. As if venting his dissatisfaction, Traitor was cutting the fried egg with a dinner knife, and the ear-piercing sound made me frown. This sound was very similar to the sound of the vehicle rubbing against the ground when I had a car accident in my previous life. After being reborn, I really hate the ear-piercing noise generated by friction. I turned around and left the dining room and went directly back to my own company. Since I have already married into the Traitor family through an arranged marriage, I also have the right to manage the part of the resources that my family has provided to support the Traitor family. When my father saw me come to the company, his expression was a bit surprised. "Why are you back? After just getting engaged, weren't you supposed to cultivate your relationship?" In fact, my father also thought more highly of River. After all, his relationship with the Traitor family isn't close now. And besides, he's just a student who hasn't graduated yet. So he's easier to control. It's a pity that in my previous life, I didn't listen to the advice and was completely obsessed with Traitor, which led to that kind of result. Now I held back my longing for my parents and smiled sweetly. "I just missed you and Mom. By coming back to work in the company, I can also accompany you, by the way." "Cut it out. If you really had that kind of heart, you wouldn't have been so rebellious all the time." My father still had some vigilance towards me. There was no way around it. What I did in my previous life really wasn't honorable. I forcefully asked the company more than once to invest resources in the Traitor family, which brought no returns. Even though my parents were extremely angry, they never punished me. I really failed as a daughter. I asked my father for the work matters related to the cooperation with the Traitor family. And I also promised him that I wouldn't increase the investment in the cooperation. After handling these matters, I specifically went to the school to pick up River. River didn't have a driver to pick him up and had always been a marginal figure in this family. Moreover, now he was going to completely sever the relationship with the Traitor family. When he saw me appear at the school gate, he was stunned for a moment. "What? Aren't you glad to see me?" I leaned against the door of the luxury car and stared intently at my fiancé's extraordinary and beautiful face. "Of course I am." Then his face returned to calm and he got in the car without saying a word. We went back to the Traitor family together. River's things had already been packed, but he didn't have time to take them with him when he went to the school to do research this morning. He was just about to go to the bathroom, but unexpectedly, he happened to run into a very risky scene. The sight in the bathroom was unbearable to look at. The moment the door was opened, a scream was heard. and Vixen quickly grabbed the bath towel and wrapped it around her body. You don't even care about other people being around now, do you? Traitor stood at the bathroom door with his arms crossed and sneered. Steam was billowing out from the door. When Traitor saw that it was Traitor at the door, his original panic instantly turned into anger. And he angrily questioned, "You lowlife. Did you come here on purpose to laugh at me? You two have a really good relationship. You really are siblings. You even take a bath together." I hid in the blind spot of Traitor's sight and watched their conversation. Traitor rushed out of the bathroom in a rage and punched towards Traitor. But Traitor easily dodged it and threw Traitor heavily to the ground with a shoulder throw. Taking this opportunity, I quickly went upstairs and called Traitor's father. Traitor's father took the opportunity to reprimand Traitor, and then asked Traitor to sit down on the sofa in the living room. I don't know what they talked about just now. Traitor's father called me over and indirectly asked me if I knew what had happened just now. I just said that I saw the two of them fighting and that I didn't know anything else. While secretly heaving a sigh of relief, Traitor's father also told me that what Traitor did during the engagement was indeed wrong. He also asked if, now that I had vented my anger, I could give Traitor another chance. What I mean is that you can tell our in-laws and continue to increase the investment in the cooperation with our Traitor family. Aurora, you've already vented your anger regarding the cooperative investment that increases quarterly. Please don't hold it back out of spite. Well, I'll give that brat Traitor a good lesson. In the end, he'll still marry you as you wish. After all, Traitor doesn't deserve you. He's just an illegitimate child. Traitor's father really thought I was a fool. As if I hadn't seen the farce just now. He still believed that my decision to marry Traitor was just a fit of pique from a spoiled young lady. He thought that as long as he showed some weakness, I would change my mind. I couldn't stand listening anymore and interrupted him directly. Traitor is not a child anymore. Is it really appropriate for him to have an ambiguous relationship with the sister he acknowledges? Or do you think it's Vixen who has no sense of shame? Suddenly, Traitor's angry roar came from behind me. Don't you dare say that about her. Vixen also choked up and said, Sister Aurora, I know you don't like me, but you can't say that about me either. When Traitor saw Vixen crying, he immediately went over to comfort her. I just felt bored and left the Traitor family with Traitor. I had planned to move all his luggage into my room, but he shook his head and moved all his things to the guest room. I showed a mischievous smile and secretly opened the door of his room in the middle of the night. The next day, I drove to the company. But I didn't expect Traitor to come to me on his own initiative. Without any notice or appointment, he directly burst into my office and stood in front of the desk, looking down at me. Aurora, how long are you going to keep making a fuss? His eyes were cold and stern. You've been chasing me for so long. How could you really be willing to get engaged to someone else? Don't play hard to get. As long as you break off the engagement with Traitor and marry me, I promise that no one can shake your position as the lady of the Traitor family. I used to try to reason with him, but now I've realized it's completely useless. I looked up and stared at him playfully. But I'm already the lady of the Traitor family, and it won't affect your love affair with your precious Vixen. So why not? Don't push my limits. Traitor left in a huff. I then called my secretary. Don't let him enter my office casually in the future. Yes, President Aurora. The secretary's expression was a bit strange. President Aurora. There's still someone waiting outside to see you. Traitor came in holding a laptop, looking a bit timid. I asked him to come. You can go out first. After sending the secretary away, his expressions softened a bit. How did you know about the research I'm doing? When you slept with me last night, you talked a lot in your sleep. This half-joking reason and didn't really hold water. But Traitor didn't ask further. He tapped the laptop twice and turned the screen towards me. Sure enough, it showed the project he had been working on in his previous life. It was precisely with this project that he became completely independent and stepped into the forefront of the technology industry. I know what you want to do, so I can offer you my help. What I urgently need to do now is to win over Traitor. Let him complete his research with the help of my family, and prepare for completely breaking away from the Traitor family in the future. At this time, He was really struggling because he didn't have a trustworthy and capable assistant. And every step he took was extremely difficult. And my appearance is not only as an assistant but also as a benefactor. I no longer have any hope for something as illusory as love. In comparison, the friendship forged through thick and thin is more worthy of trust. Really? There was a glimmer of hope in Street River's eyes. Looking at the materials, I smiled and said, "Let's give it a try together. You're my future husband, so I should help you. Moreover, since I've taken a fancy to your research, it's also the result of your hard work. In the few years when I was pursuing Traitor before, I would always run into Street River. At that time, he always had a student-style haircut and silently followed behind everyone. My gaze rarely passed through the crowd and landed on him. His relationship with Traitor was very bad, and it could even be said to be in a terrible state. Traitor would always tell me how bad his illegitimate younger brother was. After being reborn, I realized that all of this was slander. Traitor was just afraid that his younger brother would snatch the position of heir from him. Even if he wasn't the heir, as an illegitimate child, he now has the right to inherit the family property. He has been looking for an opportunity to drive Street River out of the Traitor family. So the reason why Street River left the Traitor family later was, to some extent, because of Traitor's interference. It wasn't entirely Street River's own idea. Street River's research has entered a new stage. A large-scale experiment is about to begin. Only a large company can conduct an experiment of this scale. I took Street River to my home to meet my father. After learning that we needed an experimental site, my father didn't hesitate and immediately contacted someone to make arrangements. The experiment needed some time to prepare. During this period, we received a call from Traitor's father. He asked me to go to the Traitor family. It turned out that Traitor had gone on a trip with Vixen without notifying anyone. Traitor's father originally thought that Traitor and I were still just angry with each other and that we would eventually get back together. So he called me over just to bring up the old matter again. He comforted me by saying that Traitor was just dissatisfied with my actions and had taken reciprocal revenge. He also said that he hoped that we could have a good talk when Traitor came back. Aurora, just lower your head and admit your mistake a little. I believe that Traitor is still willing to marry you. Over the years, Traitor's father has gotten used to my humble attitude, and his tone wasn't very pleasant. Why should I lower my head? I was neither servile nor overbearing and looked at Traitor's father calmly. This matter doesn't affect the cooperation between our two families, because I've already found a more suitable person to be my husband. But after all, Street River is just an illegitimate child. Before Traitor's father could finish his sentence, I interrupted him mercilessly. You also know that he's an illegitimate child. Then why did you deceive Street River's mother's feelings back then? Why did you have Street River? Aurora, is this how you talk to your elders? Being directly poked at a sore spot, Traitor's father was so angry that he pointed at me and rebuked me. How could I lower my head and admit my mistake? I even more provocatively crossed my legs. Is this how you talk to me? The person in charge of the cooperation with the Traitor family? To be honest, now that Street River is on my side, there's nothing else in the Traitor family that can catch my eye. So, this is my attitude. What can you do to me? Or what does the Traitor family want to do? Don't forget, now the lifeblood of your family is in my hands. Every time I come to the Traitor family, I feel extremely bored. I stood up and walked towards the gate without looking back. Before leaving, I turned around and looked at Traitor's father, who was shaking with anger but didn't dare to rebuke me again. As for that scumbag Traitor, just let him be. There's no way I'll have any relationship with him again. Don't mention him again and again either, or I can't guarantee what I'll do. I really feel sorry for Street River for having a father like Traitor's father. Obviously, Street River is much more excellent than his elder brother, but Traitor's father has turned a blind eye to it over the years. He regards Street River as a mistake and the result of all misfortunes. But all these bad consequences were caused by Traitor's father himself, while his precious son Traitor was accompanying Vixen on a trip outside. Traitor's illegitimate younger brother was learning about the company's operations beside my father. Plus, having fulfilled my obsession, the research experiment was going very smoothly. And my father became more and more satisfied with River. Sometimes he even sighed to me, saying that I was not as good as his son-in-law. The experimental results were better than any of us expected. The next step is to apply for approval and then enter the market. The related industries are about to undergo a transformation. Of course, we won't take away other people's achievements. River's achievements are so dazzling that they can't be covered up at all, and no one can replace him. Just as we were waiting for the approval, Traitor and the others came back. Compared with her previous timid appearance, Vixen is now obviously more assertive. She added me on WeChat and showed off the photos she took during her trip abroad. Sister, you probably don't know that Traitor bought me a gift too. In the voice message, she was full of provocation and also showed off the limited edition high-end necklace around her neck through the photos. I then sincerely praised her. It's very beautiful. Indeed, only the person you love the most can make him show his best side. I wish you a long and happy marriage. Vixen didn't expect me to speak in such a tone. She seemed to think that I was just pretending to be strong, and continued to provoke me in a sarcastic way. Sister, when looking for a man, you have to observe carefully and persevere. Otherwise, you'll easily focus on the small things and miss the big ones. My heart didn't stir at all when I heard her say that. I even thought she was stupidly cute. So I sent a voice message, gently expressing that I agreed with this view, and then continued to focus on my work. After Traitor came back, he started harassing me again. Since I had previously mentioned that I wouldn't meet Traitor again, he had no way to get in touch with me. So he began to persistently send me voice messages. Aurora, as long as you turn back, as long as you say the word, I'll change my mind immediately. I've reserved the position of my fiancé for you, and that position can only be yours. But at the same time, he continued to dote on his so-called sister. Vixen really didn't need to seek attention from me, nor did she need to do some self-destructive things to prove her position in Traitor's heart. Obviously, having fulfilled what I'd say, she had already firmly secured that position. But Traitor always said that the position was still reserved for me. It made me feel so disgusted that my throat spazzed. The approval process is a repetitive one. During this period, I simply stayed at the company. River also took a leave of absence from school and wholeheartedly accompanied me to be busy. I temporarily returned the management of the cooperation with the Traitor family to my father. But I didn't tell him that the Traitor family wanted us to increase the investment. For now, having fulfilled reinvention, I'm the only one who knows about this. So my father just invested money in the Traitor family according to the scheduled dates. Even so, seeing a large amount of money being invested in the bottomless pit of the Traitor family, I still felt heartbroken. After looking at the public report, River's expression was quite guilty. Sister, it's really putting you at a disadvantage to cooperate with the Traitor family. Once my research is launched into the market, everything will get better. I touched the smooth hair on my future husband's head with satisfaction, and my heart was filled with a sense of full happiness. Since I didn't increase the investment as I had previously said, the Traitor family called me again. This time it was Traitor's mother. Traitor's father finally learned his lesson. But not completely. He didn't follow my request and still mentioned this matter, just replacing himself with someone who was a bit closer to me to convey the message. But it was only a little closer. Aurora, how long are you and my Traitor going to keep arguing? If you keep having a cold war like this, your relationship won't progress at all. I'm still waiting to hold my grandson. Once you to get married and have a child, you'll definitely regret being so stupid as to have a cold war at this moment. Contempt filled my heart. If I were really pregnant, then my death would be drawing near. Remembering how everyone in the Traitor family had paid no attention to me when I was pregnant in my previous life, I became even more determined and to have no contact with the Traitor family at all. They used the child to tie me down, obtained all the resources they could from me, and then left me to fend for myself. At that time, I was close to my due date, and I could only go to the hospital alone to await the birth. On the way to the hospital, I was hit and sent flying by a drunk driver. The Traitor family not only paid no attention to me but even didn't inform my family. On my deathbed, I pleaded with the doctor to call Traitor. From his tone of voice, I could almost picture the impatience on his face. I'm very busy today. Didn't I say that? Today is Vixen's birthday. Tell her not to cause trouble. Let's talk about it when I get back. Before the doctor could explain the reason, the call was cut off. In the end, due to my severe injuries, both I and the baby died. The doctor later contacted my parents. When my parents rushed to the hospital to claim the body, their heartbroken expressions are still vivid in my mind. I believe Miss Vixen wouldn't want to see me change my mind. Oh, Aurora, don't say such things. I will definitely give you a satisfactory answer. I knew that after Traitor's mother said this, she would definitely go and teach Vixen a lesson. According to the maid who has a good relationship with Street River. After hanging up the phone, Traitor's mother immediately called Vixen and slapped her unceremoniously. Vixen immediately started crying and causing a scene, smashing things at home. And Traitor stood up to protect her and tried every means to coax her. The Traitor family was in chaos for a while, and I enjoyed watching the commotion. Traitor was already exhausted from trying to ease the relationship between the two sides. Moreover, Traitor's father and Traitor's mother started to obstruct the relationship between the two of them again. The original win-win situation has now completely failed. For some time after that, Traitor was in low spirits and went to deal with the inspection of his status as the prospective heir by the elders of the Traitor family with dark circles under his eyes. Over the years, because I had been supporting the Traitor family, there weren't many crises and setbacks left for Traitor to exercise and grow from. So the elders of the Traitor family announced that if the inspection was not passed, Traitor would still have to continue his training. They began to intentionally or unintentionally focus their attention on Street River, the illegitimate son. Street River soon received a call from the elders of the Traitor family. Sorry. As I said before, I give up the position of the heir and sever my relationship with the Traitor family. The call was on speakerphone, and the voice of the elders of the Traitor family echoed in the office where only Street River and I were. Hey, heading fulfilled land session. Don't say angry words. Your father was just saying things out of anger. The tone of the elders of the Traitor family was quite eager. Sorry. I have other matters to attend to. After dealing with it briefly, Street River put down the phone. Now his attention is all on his own business. As expected, good news arrived on schedule. Traitor and I were eagerly waiting in the office. And finally, we received the notice that the approval had been passed. I immediately stood up and was about to rush to the marketing department without delay. But unexpectedly, I slipped and my body leaned forward. I was on the verge of falling to the ground. The expected pain didn't come. Instead, I was firmly caught by someone. When I opened my eyes, I saw Street River's worried and blushing face. Are you okay? Street River turned his face away and didn't dare to look at me. The hand around my waist quickly withdrew after I stabilized myself. He was so polite that I couldn't help but want to play a trick. Unfortunately, having fulfilled my before I could play a trick, the people in the marketing department had already learned the news that the approval had been passed and took the lead in knocking on the door and entering the office to report the good news. President Aurora, the approval has been passed. Let's start the next step right away. I quickly suppressed my mischievous smile and responded seriously, sure. But this time, it seems that one more person will have to be added to the marketing department. I only provided Street River with the necessary resources and had no intention of giving him the connections related to the Aurora family. In his previous life, without anyone knowing his background, he still managed to secure a large amount of investment by virtue of his outstanding abilities and the excellent technical products he developed. He single-handedly established a company that was on par with the entire Traitor family in strength. Our family's business has been growing steadily. As the branch company is about to be established, I plan to assign some people from the marketing department of the head office to Street River to form a new team. A golden dragon is not something that can be confined to a small pond. I have no intention of tying him down to our family's head office. The reason I'm giving him this help now is entirely because I cherish his talent and recognize his status as my husband. Mr. Lan, if you can participate in our project this time, we will offer you a lower quotation and prioritize providing our technology. Street River soon took his newly established team to seek cooperation. Actually, heading to fiancé. There's no need for cooperation. After all, the related industries of our family can take over the whole project, but it's more enjoyable to share the joy with others than to enjoy it alone. The prerequisite for me to expand the business is to allocate less energy to dealing with future competition. It's better to pull all the competitors onto our side and to always be in opposition. Moreover, this can also reasonably push Traitor to the forefront, so that the big shots in the related industries can get to know Traitor. After all, Traitor didn't have a high reputation. On the day before the approval was passed, he encountered setbacks one after another. Fortunately, having fulfilledly, the result was good. After some investigation, several interested companies quickly called Traitor to say they wanted to have a detailed discussion. I selected 3 companies that were strong enough and wouldn't pose a great threat to our company, and asked Traitor to continue to communicate with them. Of course, during the later process of seeking cooperation, there were people who wanted to take this opportunity to cheat Traitor. But the experience and training he gained in the company during this period broadened his horizons, and he immediately noticed something was wrong. After being clearly refused, the other party began to threaten and intimidate him in various ways. Traitor wasn't intimidated at all. He borrowed the power and influence of other companies that had already reached a cooperation intention to scare off the other party. When I learned about it, I immediately led the head office to step in at this time. I made our position clear to support Traitor and declared Traitor's identity to the other party. Not only that, but I also regarded the other party as a competitor, and in the future, they will be left far behind. From then on, no matter how much they pleaded with us to provide technology, we wouldn't show any mercy. After determining the final cooperation list, my father, together with the company's senior management, and I held a meeting to discuss. We decided that Traitor and I would take the lead in establishing the branch company. Since then, Traitor and his new technology have officially emerged in the public eye. Traitor and his research caused a sensation for a while. The enterprises that hadn't agreed to cooperate before were stunned for a moment. They all sent people to the branch company to discuss cooperation. Some people who knew the inside story directly came to the head office to curry favor with my father. Among these companies, there were some that we hadn't tried to seek cooperation with. Later, they would definitely be included in the cooperation list considering our long-term relationship. For those companies that had refused cooperation and then came to curry favor, my father basically dismissed them with a single sentence: "I can't do anything about it. This technology was developed by that kid Traitor. Whether he's willing to cooperate in the end depends on him." Naturally, this wouldn't lead to a complete breakdown of the relationship, but they could only be in the second echelon of cooperation later. The elders of the Traitor family naturally also learned about Traitor's research results. The elders of the Traitor family took the lead in calling Traitor, but Traitor directly chose to block their number. Then they called me, and I chose to pretend to know nothing. Next was Traitor's mother. After various expressions of concern, she finally asked about Traitor. "Mrs. Traitor, didn't you say that Traitor is an illegitimate son? He's not your biological son. Why do you care about him?" Traitor's mother called mainly because of the pressure from the elders of the Traitor family. I seized this point and retorted mercilessly. Oh, after all, this child is of the Traitor family's blood. As an elder of the Traitor family, I still have to care about him. Traitor is my husband. You'd better bow and find him yourself. I can't make decisions on his behalf. I was very busy with the affairs of the branch company and didn't want to waste any more words. I hung up the phone right after retorting. Establishing a branch company requires a large amount of capital support. Without hesitation, I took back the cooperation rights with the Traitor family from my father, and I officially and completely stopped the unprofitable investment that had lasted for several years. It would take about half a month for the people of the Traitor family to react. The funds that were originally planned to be invested next month are now all used for the construction of the branch company. The office building already exists, and most of this money goes into the early production stage. With the continuous influx of cooperation intentions, and the strong support of the already finalized cooperation partners, Not only the branch company, but also our family's head office has benefited a lot. The Traitor family paid attention to Striver too late. Traitor was still immersed in the happiness of being with Vixen. Moreover, since Striver had already separated from the Traitor family, Traitor had no sense of crisis at all. The legitimate eldest son is idle and incompetent, and the illegitimate son is talented but has already severed the relationship. The Traitor family either has to make Traitor become competent and quickly or can only act shamelessly and bring Striver back to the Traitor family. Obviously, having fulfilled my desire, the Traitor family chose the second option. I met Traitor's father and Traitor's mother when I went to the head office for a meeting. They were waiting in the reception room. When they saw me being led in by the secretary, they even peeked behind me. Stop looking. Treacherous is very busy and doesn't have time to come back with me. I sat casually in the main seat, took the coffee handed to me by the secretary, and didn't even greet Traitor's father and Traitor's mother. Aurora, I was wrong before. I shouldn't have only valued blood relations and status. We have realized our mistake. Can you help us call Striver back so that we can have a good talk? Traitor's mother rubbed her hands. She was very different from the overbearing mother-in-law she had been in the previous life. It seemed that the pressure exerted by the elders of the Traitor family had made her life difficult recently. I can't make the decision. After all, Mrs. Traitor, you told me before that everything should be decided by the husband. Striver is my husband. Since he doesn't want to come back, I can't say anything either. Traitor's mother was stunned for a long time as if she'd had been choked. After all, she had indeed said this before. I had also emphasized it many times after I married Traitor in my previous life. At that time, I was deeply in love with Traitor. So I naturally obeyed Mrs. Traitor's words. Oh, I've realized my mistake now. Before, I was afraid that Traitor would be looked down upon by your family elders. So someone had to support him. What do you mean? Are you saying that our family elders are overbearing and difficult to get along with? No. She had already lowered her stance very much and was asking for my help. Traitor's mother realized she had said the wrong thing and suddenly broke out in a cold sweat. Aurora. After all, Striver is a child of the Traitor family. And he still has the surname Chen. I thought that now that he has achieved so much, he might not be able to handle it on his own. He always needs someone from the family to help him so that he can move forward steadily. They were really shameless. It seemed that they still thought I was the same easy-to-control and naive person as before. He has already severed his relationship with you. And besides, he has the help of my family. With the little strength your family has, forget it. You can't handle it. Looking at Traitor's father's face, which was gradually turning red, I calmly added fuel to the fire. Now you know why I chose Striver instead of that scumbag Traitor. Right? I definitely won't want a good for nothing. Aurora. Don't push your luck. My patience has its limits. Hand over Striver immediately, and let him go home with me obediently. Traitor's father finally couldn't hold back and stood up, pointing at me and cursing. Who gave you the courage to show me a bad face in my company? I wasn't intimidated, and even found it a bit ridiculous. The bodyguards who heard the commotion quickly walked into the reception room. I pointed at Traitor's father and mother, escort uncle and aunt out. Then I stood up, ignoring Traitor's father and mother, who were being dragged out in a sorry state and still cursing, and walked towards the conference room. This meeting was related to the new pattern of the future-related market. Striver was in the conference room not far away, presiding over the meeting in the capacity of the head of the branch company and a technical researcher. The illegitimate son that Traitor's father and mother had never valued had, into lifetimes, used his own efforts to reach a height they could never achieve. When they saw me come in, the members of the meeting stood up and applauded. Striver also came over and shook hands with me politely. When our hands met, I gently rubbed the palm of his hand with my little finger. Unexpectedly, he didn't blush at all. Instead, he turned around and continued his speech with neither humility nor arrogance. In just half a year, he had already lost his former simplicity and greenness. It's a pity that the little trick of teasing him doesn't work now. I muttered to myself, but I was also proud of him. It seemed that Traitor's father and mother were so angry with me that they never came to me again. The last message I received was a voice message in which Traitor's father angrily cursed me. Do you really think you can become big and strong just because you've made an innovation? After all, River is just a student. And you're just a rich second generation. In the end, the market prospects are still determined by the user base. Soon this message was retracted. They should be afraid of really offending our family completely. After all, as long as they don't take the initiative to fall out with us, they still have the opportunity to come to our or a family with a shameless face to seek cooperation and help. However, in order to take revenge on me, Traitor's father and mother completely let Traitor and Vixen's relationship develop freely. They were betting that I still had feelings for Traitor from the past few years. Vixen even lived with Traitor openly. They lived in the bridal chamber that had been specially prepared after their marriage that year. The maid said that every night, she could faintly hear some unpleasant sounds coming from the room. Moreover, they started discussing going on a vacation abroad and sunbathing on a private beach again. Soon they took a plane and went abroad. And I had long arranged for paparazzi abroad to follow them and take real-time photos. Although Traitor's father and mother allowed the two of them to be together, this matter was only known to the people within the Traitor family. And what I had to do was to make this matter known to everyone. Soon the paparazzi captured a video of Traitor and Vixen being affectionate on a deserted private beach. The faces of the two of them were clearly shown in the video. And the scene was so erotic that even I felt a bit disgusted when I saw it. I arranged for the paparazzi to first post it on the Chinese news websites abroad, and then gradually spread it to the domestic ones. But I underestimated the spread speed of this matter. The news was released at midnight. By noon the next day, I had already seen this news on the local entertainment front page. Various gossip websites were also spreading the video. The Traitor family suddenly became the biggest joke in the business and technology circles. And this day happened to be the day when the investment for the Traitor family was due. The employee of the Traitor family who came to receive the funds seemed not to know the names. He came with the same arrogance as before and left with his head down. He was still holding the documents that no one was willing to sign in his hand. He was not the only guest who came from the Traitor family today. Soon Traitor and Vixen, fully armed with masks and hats, came downstairs to our family's headquarters and shouted that they wanted to see me. The secretary came to report with a suppressed smile. And I went downstairs out of curiosity to watch the show. Aurora, you must have framed me. I'll kill you. As soon as he saw me, Traitor wanted to rush over and hit me. But he was quickly stopped by the bodyguards. Because Vixen was afraid of being photographed by the reporters. With her mask on, her expression couldn't be seen, but her eyes were full of viciousness. I crossed my arms and sneered. What's wrong? Clearly, having fulfilled my say. You two are promiscuous and did such a dirty thing. How can you blame me? River has already severed his relationship with the Traitor family. Even if you try to claim kinship, it has nothing to do with me. You two should leave our company immediately and don't bring bad reputation to our company. The dirty things you two did have even spread abroad. Don't you know you should lie low at home? River couldn't get forward and could only stare at me coldly. Aurora, I didn't expect you to be such a person. What kind of person? Oh right. It's thanks to my sharp eyes that I found out you're a man with no moral integrity. I kicked you to the curb a long time ago. What on earth are you? How dare you say what kind of person I am? Security guards. Throw these two dirty people out. Feeling refreshed after scolding them, I walked into the company, clicking my high heels. I took the elevator to the parking lot, drove my car, and went straight home. There were already a bunch of friends from my usual business coming over as guests at home. During the chat, they occasionally mentioned the matter of Traitor and Vixen. Well, Uncle Aurora, your daughter really has a good eye. She dumped that coward from the Traitor family and brought back the most promising illegitimate son of their family. She's really your daughter. I heard that Traitor and that Vixen usually call each other brother and sister. Not only do they not know how to avoid suspicion, but they're actually together now. I've long heard that Traitor had an ambiguous relationship with a woman before. At that time, I wanted to persuade your daughter to take a closer look. I didn't expect that she really lived up to expectations. There were occasional praises for me in their words. And they also mentioned Street River a few times. I was in a very good mood. Because this was the effect I wanted. The external discussions would soon involve me. It would also involve the engagement ceremony, the news of which was strictly blocked at that time. From then on, I was completely unbound from Traitor. I heard that Traitor's father fainted on the spot out of anger when he saw the news and was urgently sent to the hospital. Traitor's mother then went straight from the hospital to the front of my house. Ignoring her former image as a noble lady, she cursed like a shrew. "Are you satisfied now that my son is being called a promiscuous person?" No one paid any attention to her at all. Only a few reporters following behind took occasional snapshots. Soon she left in a huff. When the reporters were leaving, I asked the bodyguards to come out from the back door and catch up with them. I gave each of them a big red envelope and asked them to write more negative news about the Traitor family. The public's evaluation of Vixen was mostly that she was a mistress who took the place of the original wife for a slut. The first thing Traitor's father did after waking up was to change his former permissive attitude and immediately asked Traitor and the others to break up. It was as if the farce of sending Vixen abroad that year was happening again. Traitor's father had a big argument with Traitor. And his body, which couldn't bear the blow, was tottering. But there was still one thing he didn't know. In the afternoon, the news that our family stopped the funding reached Traitor's father's ears. He was sent to the emergency room again just after being discharged from the hospital. The operation of the Traitor family almost fell into paralysis. The business was already affected by the negative news. Even without this incident, they still had to eagerly wait for our family's investment every month. And the development of their own industry was stumbling. Only their temper for asking for money was growing. Without the funds from our family, bankruptcy was only a matter of time. Perhaps the only one in the Traitor family who was happy was Vixen. Now she seemed to be able to be with Traitor openly and aboveboard. As long as they still stayed in the local area, the title of scumbag couple would accompany them for the rest of their lives. The elders of the Traitor family began to come to me and play the victim in various ways. An investment is essentially a business behavior. Looking at the relationship between the Traitor family and ours in recent years, the Aurora family has wasted a lot of money. In the future, our family will never be a fool again. After all, this is doing business, not charity. Compared with the later miserable situation of the Traitor family, our family's annual meeting this year was extremely lively. The bonus and dividend were much higher than the year before last. And the company was filled with a festive atmosphere. Our family invited friends from all walks of the business and scientific research circles to participate in the annual meeting. After a round of applause and the sound of fireworks, after I hosted the opening ceremony, I came to the window to enjoy the outdoor scenery. There was a person standing next to me. When I turned my head, it was Street River. I had been so busy these days that I hadn't seen him for a long time. Now it seemed that the immature aura on him had completely disappeared. I received an invitation from an emotional mediation program a few days ago. A Traitor family specifically asked me to go on the program and recognize them as my relatives. I was quite surprised. I didn't expect that the people of the Traitor family could be so shameless. Street River's tone was rather calm. "They're just asking for trouble. They'll have a hard time when the program is broadcast." I couldn't help but laugh secretly. After all, Street River didn't have a good time in the Traitor family in the past few years. Once the program was broadcast, people all over the country would know how the people of the Traitor family mistreated Street River, and how they were now shamelessly coming to recognize him as their relative. The ugliness of their behavior was likely to make many viewers feel nauseous. Of course, I didn't come here specifically to tell you this. Street River's face became serious. I couldn't help but feel a little nervous. I think our previous engagement was too hasty. I still feel that something is missing in my heart. As he said that, he took out a small box from his pocket. "I seem to owe you a proposal ceremony." The proposal at the annual meeting was quickly posted online by the reporters. The photos of me and Street River embracing and kissing with my eyes red made many netizens feel touched. And the wedding was scheduled for after Street River graduated. And Street River really participated in that emotional mediation program. As I expected. After the national audience learned that Street River didn't have his household registration in the Traitor family, had been marginalized for several years, and had been treated harshly. They all condemned the Traitor family. After participating in the program, River was sent back to the Aurora family by the driver. When he called me on the way, he sighed that he finally let out a long pent-up grievance. While we were talking, there was suddenly a crashing sound on the other end of the phone. The sound was very familiar. Exactly the same as the one I heard when I was hit and killed in my previous life. I looked panicked and checked the car's location. While calling the rescue team to go for the rescue, I also drove there as fast as I could. When I saw the accident scene, I was so scared that I almost sat on the ground on the spot. River's car was overturned and almost fell off of the viaduct. And the other car that collided with it was exactly the same car that had hit and killed me in my previous life. Fortunately, River was not seriously injured, because he wasn't used to sitting in the boss's seat. He sat in the passenger seat. That car crashed straight into the back seat, where the boss's seat was located. If someone had been sitting in that position, they would have either died or been seriously injured. Comparing the two lives, I then realized that the car accident that caused my death in my previous life was not an accident, but was deliberately caused by someone. In my previous life, I had no reason to investigate it. Now that there is evidence, I immediately asked people to join the police investigation. I provided the evidence to the police as soon as it was found. Soon it was discovered that Traitor had sent people to order the act. The man I deeply loved in my previous life, after squeezing out all my value of being used, sent me into the embrace of death. I didn't feel sad. Instead, I had a sense of satisfaction, like when the truth is revealed after reading a suspense novel. On the day when the police came to arrest people, Traitor's mother even coerced and bribed Vixen to make her take all the blame for the crime. Those who can share the good times may not be willing to share the hardships. Moreover, with conclusive evidence, framing someone is not an easy thing. In my previous life, they could do it seamlessly only because I was already dead, and almost everyone was disappointed in me at that time. So my death didn't cause much of a stir. In this life, the person they harmed was River, who was at least as much in the spotlight as I was. And with a large number of people in the case-solving team, it was just a matter of time before the case was solved. The Traitor family intended to destroy River directly since they couldn't get him. Those who commit evil will surely meet their own end. What's more, doing such stupid things twice in a row will only accelerate the decline of the Traitor family. The Traitor family moved their whole family and fled to a remote area to eke out a living. And Traitor was sentenced for hiring a hitman to commit murder and went to prison together with the driver. He won't be able to get out for at least 30 years. And Vixen was directly kicked out of the Traitor family. Without the protection of the Traitor family, she couldn't last long. In the past, with the help of the Traitor family when she studied abroad and after she returned to the country, she didn't have to care about her livelihood at all. Suddenly losing her support, she even set her sights on River. She sent messages to flirt with River frequently. He was annoyed and told me about it. I just found a few facts to threaten Vixen a bit. And she never showed up again. Later, I heard that with her study abroad experience and her appearance, she became the mistress of a boss. Later, she was discovered by the boss's wife. And they fought on the road. Vixen accidentally fell down, was hit and sent flying by a speeding car, and then was run over and died on the spot. I used the resources that I had previously invested in the Traitor family to invest in River and his branch company, and brought him into my circle. And I introduced all kinds of big shots to help him expand his career. And he also introduced many celebrities in the scientific research field to me. He graduated from university and got the marriage certificate with me. At the wedding, he said affectionately, "Before, I was more grateful to you. But now, all that gratitude has turned into love." As soon as he finished speaking, I put my arm around his neck and kissed him. River was indeed a casual choice I made back then. Fortunately, having fulfilled reinvention, the person I chose in this life is my most correct choice. In this life, I no longer love irrationally. I think calmly every moment and take the lead in everything in my life. And the result has also gone as I wished and become better. God gave me a chance to make a new choice. I didn't choose the other brother in the Traitor family, but I chose myself. The end.